Chapter 639. Is the princess truly the first genius of the royal family? Enter the burning immortal formation? Su Bai looked at his fellow disciples. How is the information recorded? I know you have doubts, so I brought all the information to check if there are any issues, said a senior in a blue robe. She took out some jade slips and bamboo scrolls. Su Bai received them one by one and inspected them. The more he read, the more his brows furrowed. The records explained how to control the burning immortal formation and how to mitigate the dangers that came with activating it. Everything involved risk, but if done properly, it would grant complete control of the formation. Furthermore, some books contain detailed examples, both successful and failed attempts. The records were exceptionally detailed and left no room for doubt. Even he had to admit that he couldn't find any issues with the information. How about it, senior brother? Emo Chuan asked. It's very detailed and objective, Su Bai said. Can we give it a try? A senior asked. Logically, we can give it a try. Su Bai nodded. Logically. The senior in the blue robe was puzzled. Su Bai put away the materials and looked at them with a smile. Don't rush it, seniors. You can continue exploring that place for now. If there's nothing new to gain there, then we can try the burning immortal formation. But once we master the burning immortal formation, our progress will be much quicker, said the senior brother. Su Bai shook his head. Let's explore that place first. We'll put the burning immortal formation aside for now. But the blue-robed senior didn't understand why this junior was hesitant. Seniors, there's no need to rush. Sometimes jumping to conclusions too quickly isn't safe. Continue to explore and you will find out more. We can make a decision later, Su Bai said. But what if we miss the opportunity? Wouldn't that be a shame? Said the senior brother. Su Bai pointed to the sky, where a figure sat cross-legged and resonated with the stars in the universe. As long as junior sister Chu doesn't encounter any accidents, we will have made significant gains. Not to mention that after the yin-yang formation is activated, there will be much more to explore. Let's set the burning immortal formation aside for now, alright? Su Bai looked at them with a smile. After some hesitation they all nodded. If it were someone else they might not have agreed, but this was Su Bai. He was young, yet he not only surpassed them in cultivation but also had a broader perspective. Since he suggested it, they would wait a little longer and collect more information. In the south, in a city near the front line, Princess Baizhu sat in front of an artificial mountain with her brows furrowed in concentration. What are you thinking about, princess? Qiao Yi walked in. Aren't you going to rest, Auntie Qiao? Baizhu asked with a smile. Qiao Yi shook her head. This isn't a safe place. I must guard you against any potential threats. Aren't you supposed to be looking for Yin Zichen? We've got some information, but trouble has arrived too. Baizhu sighed. There's news that he joined the Mountain Sea Sword sect. It seems he has a remarkable talent. The Mountain Sea Sword sect in the north? Qiao Yi was surprised. Yes, that's the one, said Baizhu. Auntie Qiao, please tell me the truth. Do you have any grudges against him? Why are you so insistent on finding him? If you want to kill him, it should be relatively easy. All you need is something he carries with him and some relevant information, and it won't be long before he dies. If you had a drop of his blood, it would be even better. Qiao Yi looked incredulous. Is the princess joking again? She had followed her all this way but had never seen her in action. She hadn't witnessed the brilliance of the one true genius of the royal family. However, her information was usually accurate. She didn't know where Baizhu got her information. She was worried that the princess was deceiving her, so she accompanied her to this dangerous place. She couldn't let her guard down. We aren't enemies. He helped me escape from the heavenly spirit tribe. After that, I heard he fell out with the tribe as well. When you asked me if I had any unfinished business, he came to my mind. Baizhu hesitated. Are you saying we should save him? Save him? Qiao Yi was puzzled. Didn't you say he joined the Mountain Sea Sword sect? Yes. Baizhu shrugged. However, recently I heard he defected from the Mountain Sea Sword sect and fled to the south. Do you wonder why he escaped to the south instead of somewhere else? I've been considering leaving the south lately. Defected. Qiao Yi found it hard to believe. Why would he do something like that? Princess, why do you want to leave the southern region? You are part of the southern royal family, and there are people who can protect you here. You don't know how dangerous the south has become. Baizhu sighed. Ever since Jing appeared, all sorts of dangers have arisen. I wonder who attracted whom. Did the dangers attract Jing or did Jing bring the dangers? Forget it. Let's go and investigate the presence of the Mountain Sea Sword sect. If someone has entered the south we might find out. However, we need to find someone first. Baizhu got up. Since she had promised to help Qiao Yi, she couldn't abandon the task halfway. Who do you want to find, princess? Qiao Yi asked. Someone who can see through the secrets of heaven. I haven't sought him out in a long time, said Baizhu with a smile. Qiao Yi was speechless. Overseas in the heavenly tower, Mr. Tao arrived at a courtyard at sunrise. Zhu Xun was the first to visit him. Mr. Tao, are you looking for me? He asked. Yes. There's something I want to remind you of, Mr. Tao said as he sat on a pavilion. Please go ahead, Zhu Xun said attentively. Is there anyone from the heavenly tower on Chaos Stone Island? Mr. Tao asked. Yes. Zhu Xun nodded. Do you know who they belong to? Mr. Tao asked. They come from various places, but their identities can be investigated, Zhu Xun said. Good. I want you to go there. The moment the ship arrives, gather all the people from the heavenly tower and take them to a safe place. Also take this with you. Mr. Tao placed a palm-sized jade scroll on the table. Find someone who can resonate with this and take them to safety. Zhu Xun looked at the scroll in shock. It was Mr. Tao's token. The only people who could resonate with it were those who held Mr. Tao's trust. Zhu Xun knew that this mission was a very important one, so he didn't hesitate. Mr. Tao, wait for good news, he said as he took the token and bowed respectfully. No need to worry too much. If you can't obtain it, it won't be an issue. Mr. Tao smiled. Zhu Xun didn't respond, but he was determined to give it his all. Mr. Tao also understood his thoughts. With the token in hand, he wasn't worried about anything. By the way, how's the situation at the Abyssal Sea? Mr. Tao asked. All the major forces are converging there. Some people have descended into the Abyssal Sea, but none have returned yet. The resonance with the ancestral dragon's heart is also much more apparent than before, Zhu Xun said. Is that so? Mr. Tao stood up. The place there is nice. I plan to go and take a look. Mr. Tao, are you going to compete for ancestral dragon's heart? Zhu Xun was surprised. You're thinking too much, Mr. Tao said. I just want to go and see. Staying in the room for too long makes you forget what it's like outside. Chapter 640, The Demoness enjoys discussing matters of the heart. Have you finished your tea? Hong Yuya sat in her chair. At that moment she was dressed in a red gown. Her long black hair flowed down her back. Jianghu stood nearby. He felt sore all over. The gathering was over, and he needed to inform Hong Yuya of the content of that gathering. The work here was almost done and they would be able to leave tomorrow. He had to decide whether he would go to Abyssal Sea or Chaos Stone Island. I'll prepare another pot of tea for you, senior, Jianghu said respectfully and picked up the teapot. However, this time it was not the September spring but just ordinary tea leaves. It had only cost him 250 spirit stones. Compared to the September spring tea, it was indeed very ordinary. He collected the soaked tea leaves and planned to take them back for the spirit beast to eat. There was no need to waste them. After the tea was brewed, Hong Yuya took a sip and looked at the man in front of her coldly. It seems you've grown accustomed to being evasive. Jianghu was taken aback and said respectfully, Senior, you must be joking. It's just that I haven't found suitable tea leaves for now. You're full of lies. Hong Yuya held her teacup. Tell me about the gathering. Jianghu sat down, took out a book and planned to record the content while talking. Last night he had wanted to write everything down, but he spent the whole night working on the screen. Fortunately, after experiencing Hong Yuya's wrath, he felt much calmer. He started from the beginning. First, it was the news about the Earth Extreme Silent Pearl. Hong Yuya didn't show any emotions about the pearl's presence in the southern region. Next was the information about the true dragon. She didn't care about that either because she was well aware of it. He briefly mentioned the mission of Xing and Gui. Finally, he went over the casual discussions they had had. He gave a detailed account of 9 Nether's origins. Hong Yuya showed a slight interest in that. Then he spoke about the things concerning him. He told her that Lu knew about them. The information from the Heavenly Tower is very accurate. Maybe Lu is a member of the Heavenly Tower. I wouldn't rule out the possibility that his people are here, Jianghu said. Since Qi Tian was here, it made sense that Lu's people were keeping an eye here. Is someone targeting smiling Sansheng? Hong Yuya asked. Yes. Jianghu nodded. It might be related to some past issues. Hong Yuya looked at Jianghu and smiled. I didn't see anyone targeting you on Chaos Stone Island. It seems the real smiling Sansheng isn't as bold as you. You are right, senior. I have been too reckless in impersonating him, Jianghu said humbly. Hong Yuya chuckled and gestured for him to continue. There wasn't anything particularly important after that, but Jianghu still told her everything sincerely. To be interested in some things. Heavenly King Hai Luo? The one who is willing to give up his position for his beloved? Yes. He is now in the Lawless Tower. Do you think he has other intentions? Other intentions? Such as abandoning his status as a heavenly king to gain insight into the heavenly path. Ha! Jianghu was stunned. Was there such a possibility? However, he felt that was unlikely. When he had appraised King Hai Luo, there was no mention of something like that. It was true that the appraisal only showed him immediate information. What if the heavenly king was actually heading toward that path? Wouldn't that mean his troubles were over? He thought he should go to the Lawless Tower to check. If there was a real breakthrough, it would be difficult to make him obey afterward. After talking about heavenly King Hai Luo, Hong Yuya brought up Shang'an. Did he go after the charm goddess? It's hard to say. Logically, he would have gone west if he wanted the charm goddess. Jianghu didn't understand Shang'an's plans. The corpse realm was likely to open in the west or north. Since Shang'an came from the western region, he would be familiar with the place. There was no need to head to the unfamiliar south. Therefore, it was highly likely that he had come to demand answers. Do you think it's worth it? Hong Yuya suddenly asked. What do you mean, senior? Jianghu asked. Doing so much for that charm goddess. I don't think it's worth it, but Shang'an believes it is. Why do you think it's not worth it? Hong Yuya raised an eyebrow at Jianghu. Because I'm not Shang'an. I don't have as many emotions as him. Other people's disgust or disdain toward me doesn't affect me. I'm not as gullible as Shang'an for a charm goddess to take advantage. I'm just me. He was different from Shang'an. He had matured greatly. Even at the age of 5, he had a place to live in. He might not be as strong as Shang'an, but he had ended up luckier than him. Moreover, the charm goddess could have countless others like Shang'an, but Shang'an had only that one charm goddess to rely on. It made Jianghu feel frustrated. Such unfairness made him feel that it wasn't worth it. What kind of person do you think is worth it? Hong Yuya asked. Jianghu remained silent for a long time. He then shook his head. He didn't know because he had never thought about it. As for now, he was just focused on surviving. As the sky grew brighter, Hong Yuya got up. Jianghu packed up his belongings and left the mansion. He would have to take the screen back to his house in the sect. Qi Tian is at the Sun Moon Pavilion. He is also a member of the End of All Things. After leaving, Jianghu began to think about how he should meet with Qi Tian. Should he use the appearance of smiling Sansheng, or should he use another disguise? In fact, there wasn't much difference, but smiling Sansheng had certain restrictions. A person who pays attention to details will never fear the unknown. So he decided to change his appearance. Walking through the crowd, Jianghu transformed from a scholar into a swordsman. The Thousand Faces treasure fan became a longsword. Not bad. With a slight smile, he headed towards the Sun Moon Pavilion. He had saved his daily appraisal to prevent being caught by surprise. Otherwise, he would have appraised Madame Gong's token already to see if she held any bad intentions toward him. Finally, it looks quite impressive. Jianghu gazed at the magnificent tower. Upon entering, a woman approached him. What can I help you with, sir? I heard that there's a skilled alchemist here and I've come to pay a visit. Do you know the name of the person you're looking for? Asked the woman. His name is Hua Lu. People call him Master Hua. Jianghu smiled politely. Sensing the terrifying aura Jianghu exuded, the woman forced out a fearful smile. Senior Hua? I will introduce you to him. Jianghu nodded. In the room, Qi Tian sat in a chair. In front of him were various medicinal pills which had been his recent work. As time passed, the fear he initially felt from the person who had visited him gradually diminished. Now he intended to gather his strength so he could withstand whatever came with time. By the time the other person discovered him, it might already be too late. Knock. Knock. Senior Hua Lu, someone has specifically asked for you. Chapter 641. Do you not recognize me? Someone came to visit? Chi Tian frowned. He wasn't particularly well known, so it was unusual for someone to ask for him. Yes. It's a senior with quite a high cultivation realm, the woman said. Chi Tian's heart sank. A senior with a high cultivation realm? What does he look like? He asked. He's a middle-aged man carrying a sword, said the woman. Middle-aged. Chi Tian sighed in relief. At least it wasn't the same person who delivered the letter last time. Let him in, he said. Of course. Please wait a moment. Chi Tian sat in his chair and examined a pill. Even though someone had come to visit, he continued to do his work. After some time there was a knock. Senior Huolu, the guest is here. With his head down, Chi Tian said, Let him in. The door was opened and the woman escorted the guest inside. Chi Tian glanced at the middle-aged swordsman. He didn't seem familiar, which put his mind at ease. Please make yourself comfortable. I need to finish up some work, Chi Tian said as he picked up a pill to examine. Although someone had come to visit, he didn't want to neglect his duties. The woman gestured for the guest to take a seat. He then poured him a cup of tea. After that she left the room. Jianghu found it amusing as he sipped his tea. However, he thought that the tea was quite ordinary and not even as good as the low-quality tea he had given to Hong Yuya. As for tea like the September spring, only important people could afford it. He had consumed quite a bit of it the previous night, but it was used for his artwork, and it hadn't improved the mountain sea seal. Nowadays he often encountered dangerous creatures, so it was important to strengthen the mountain sea seal. He knew he would need to invest more time in it. The universe in a palm technique grew with his cultivation realm, but the mountain sea seal strengthened with his mental state. He could rely only on the mountain sea seal to seal important and powerful things. Fellow disciple Hua, are you busy every day like this? Jianghu asked. Not every day. These few days I've had a lot of people here, said Chi Tian. Did you recently advance to the primordial spirit realm? Jianghu curiously asked. The first time he met Chi Tian he was at the golden core realm, and now he had reached the early stage of the primordial spirit realm. It was quite an achievement. I've recently refined my cultivation, Chi Tian said casually. Jianghu wasn't bothered by it. Is the Sun Moon Pavilion treating you well? Chi Tian was puzzled. What do you mean? I'm not implying anything. Jianghu smiled gently. I'm just curious if you've ever thought about going somewhere else. Perhaps a place that might suit you better. This time, Chi Tian didn't ignore Jianghu but set down the pill he was examining and turned to him. Aren't you here today to test the pills? Maybe, Jianghu leaned back. Would you like to hear me out? Please go on. Chi Tian wanted to know who this person was. Although this place is nice, it's rather small. Jianghu sipped his tea. The Sun Moon Pavilion may seem good, but in the context of Ancient Spirit Island, it's still a small place. Ancient Spirit Island is nice, but within the vast Heavenly Rive Sea region, it's still relatively small. Being small means that information doesn't flow well and there's limited room for development. I think someone as capable as you shouldn't be confined here. Chi Tian said, You've only seen the surface. You don't understand the true scale of this region. Jianghu was unfazed. No need to overthink, Senior Hua. I'm just wondering if you've ever considered going somewhere else. Maybe a place more fitting for your talents. Chi Tian said, Why are you asking me this? Aren't you going to ask me where I want you to be instead? Jianghu asked. Where? Chi Tian asked. Judgment Heavenly King's domain, to serve under King Taomu, Jianghu said as he put down his teacup. I must decline, Chi Tian said without hesitation. Decline? Jianghu feigned ignorance. Why wouldn't you want to go? Chi Tian was surprised by Jianghu's words. He didn't know how Jianghu had learned that he was a part of the end of all things, or that this place was a small business of the end of all things. Who are you? Chi Tian asked cautiously. Jianghu feigned puzzlement. Don't you remember me? I had someone come to greet you not so long ago. You don't remember? Jianghu stood up and exuded a heavy aura. It resembled boundless mountains and seas. This was the influence of the immortal mountain sea shield. We haven't seen each other for so long, Chi Tian. How have you been? Clang. Chi Tian was so shocked and scared that he stumbled back in panic and knocked something from the table. However, Jianghu remained composed. He simply stared at the man who was now retreating. Why are you so afraid of me? Jianghu asked softly. Chi Tian didn't know why he was so frightened. He only knew that he had used the power of the end of all things and thought he had successfully hidden from this person. However, he realized it was all in vain. To this person, everything was like an illusion. Jianghu shook his head and sat back down. He didn't say anything more. He slowly sipped his tea. When he finished drinking the tea, he asked, "Did you find anything about the end of all things?" Qi Tian nodded. At that moment, he had lost his previous arrogance. He quickly shared all the information he knew, including the fundamental operations of the end of all things and some of the things he had witnessed. Jianghu listened attentively. From the conversation, it became apparent that the end of all things occasionally hired ordinary cultivators to assist them, such as in the Sun Moon Pavilion. There weren't many members here. Even the person in charge didn't know the real force behind them. Likewise, they were given various tasks such as spreading rumors, all for the sake of facilitating the end of all things' subsequent actions. Such people couldn't easily interact with the core members, and even exploring missions required immense luck. "It seems that staying here won't provide any useful information," Jianghu remarked as he gazed at Qi Tian. "Have you thought about going to King Taomu?" "How will I go there?" Qi Tian asked with his head down. "It's up to you." Jianghu thought for a moment before saying, "I'm in no hurry. You can take your time." This wasn't something that could be rushed, and he didn't want Qi Tian to progress too quickly. After all, he had no chance of winning against King Taomu and needed plenty of time. Of course, with Qi Tian's level of strength, his progress wouldn't be swift. As long as Qi Tian was around, Jianghu would keep receiving an update. "Have you been well?" Jianghu asked again. Qi Tian looked at the man in front of him with a bitter smile. "Yes, very well." "That's good." Jianghu nodded. The present Qi Tian was no longer the same as the Qi Tian from before, who sought revenge and was willing to sacrifice anything, even his life. Again. This was what a normal person would feel. Chapter 642, A Bit Far from the Mines. When a person has nothing to lose, they dare to go all out, even at the cost of their life. But when a person has settled old scores and is living a comfortable and wealthy life, they start to fear losing things. They are more worried about their life. Hunger makes you crave food and being full makes you desire warmth. That was human nature. "I'm leaving. Is there anything you want to say to me?" Jianghu asked. Qi Tian stood up respectfully. "When will you visit again, senior? I would like to welcome you properly." Hearing this, Jianghu chuckled softly. He then opened the door and left. "When it's time, someone will naturally come to find you," he said as he left. Even though he wouldn't be visiting the area, it didn't mean he couldn't send others. Lu was not an ordinary person. Once Jianghu left, Qi Tian sat down in his chair. Even though the other party hadn't threatened him, he felt afraid. No matter how he struggled, he always felt like he was within the other person's grasp. He just couldn't understand why such a significant figure would target someone as insignificant as him. After dealing with Qi Tian, Jianghu arranged his future plans and intended to find Hong Yuya. They would depart for the Abyssal Sea tomorrow. As for Heavenly King Taomu, he could only leave it to fate. His target was Feng Hua, and he needed to find a way to obtain some useful information to ensure the success of his plan. "I looked for people from the Heavenly Tower or those related to the end of all things. I wonder if I can find someone from the Great Thousand God Sect." The Great Thousand God Sect reportedly had over 3,000 members, and Feng Hua was one of them. So, finding someone from that sect would be a good starting point. He just didn't know who was more familiar with Feng Hua or who might have a personal vendetta against him. Sometimes, it was better to find an enemy because only enemies truly understood you. Abyssal Sea has gathered many forces. I should be able to find someone from the Great Thousand God Sect. With that, Jianghu stopped dwelling on it. He would depart tomorrow. Several days later, Jianghu stood in Hong Yuya's room and couldn't help but sigh. So many days had passed and Hong Yuya still hadn't woken up, which was quite frustrating. During that time he had appraised Madame Gong's token. As he suspected, there was a problem. He couldn't give it away. Madame Gong was still the rightful owner of the place and only she could give the token away. It wasn't impossible to destroy it, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. Jianghu couldn't help but sigh. Powerful people weren't ever honest. They always had something hidden. He also checked the tranquil fruit tree. There didn't seem to be any obvious issues. He just couldn't determine if it could be used to threaten Feng Hua. To be on the safe side, he needed a backup plan. Of course, if Madame Gong had deceived him, he would know about it from Dan Yuan. Even if he couldn't kill Madame Gong, he would make her understand the meaning of pain. This was the problem with dealing with strong individuals. If they cheated you, you had no way to retaliate. With the formidable presence of Hong Yuye, the fact that the other party still had ulterior motives was truly remarkable. He also appraised Nine Nether. It was quite lively and wouldn't take long to break free from the seal. This was because of his lack of strength. I should go mining. Jianghu had inquired about it, but unfortunately, there were no mines nearby. The nearest mine was a day's journey away, so he couldn't leave without preparation. It's been many days. I wonder how many more days we have to stay here. If he had known it would take so long, he would have gone to the mines earlier. However, many people had come to Ancient Spirit Island. They were looking for Smiling Sansheng. He needed to be cautious. Around mid-October, Jianghu woke up from his meditation and found that his body was exuding the aura of a sword and the essence of the mountains and seas. This aura was not something he could normally possess at the return to Void Realm. He extended his hand, and the mountain sea seal appeared. It wasn't incredibly strong, but the aura was remarkable. I made some progress, but it's still not enough to confront my enemies. It can, however, be used to suppress some evil spirits. He used it to seal Nine Nether and then walked to the next room. Jianghu found that she was still lying on her bed and resting. She was soundly asleep. Senior? He called her several times, but there was no response. Jianghu hesitated. Then he appraised her. Deep asleep. Jianghu felt helpless. He didn't know how long she would be asleep. If she continued to sleep, they would miss the events at the Abyssal Sea. 3 days later, Jianghu put away Nine Nether. Over the past few days, he had been attempting to communicate with it. Unfortunately, 3 days seemed insufficient, and there had been no changes. On that day, he entered Hong Yuye's room and found her sitting on the bed. Her eyes were slightly closed. Jianghu stood still. He had never seen her like this. Then everything went black and he almost passed out. At noon, the two of them left the Ancient Spirit Island and headed to the Abyssal Sea. Jianghu left behind a golden ring in case it was needed later. In the sea not far from the Abyssal Sea, there was an island that remained uninhabited throughout the year. Even though there was a city, only a few dozen people were guarding it. Anybody who stayed was undoubtedly there to explore the Abyssal Sea. However, every year the number of people here would decrease. But the sea area was never lacking in adventurous cultivators. So the numbers kept filling up. The appearance of the ancestral dragon's heart suddenly brought many people to this island, and now, it was bustling. However, everyone knew that once the ancestral dragon's heart was obtained, this place would return to its original state. This place has changed a lot. Mr. Tao couldn't help but marvel at the city. He was dressed in an ordinary outfit and carried a long sword. It suited him well. Mr. Tao, do you really need to dress like that? Said a young woman helplessly. She was of average height and had a knife strapped to her back. It's fine. This is how I used to dress. Zhu Xin is used to it, Mr. Tao said with a smile. But I'm not senior brother Zhu. The young woman sighed. Mr. Tao chuckled. Then get used to it. Why did you come here, Mr. Tao? It's easy for someone to recognize you, and then they might suspect that the Heavenly Tower is also involved, the woman asked in confusion. If they want to suspect, let them suspect, Mr. Tao said nonchalantly. But, the girl whispered, there are people in the tower who know that you are on the wrong track. If you cause trouble for the tower here, it could become a problem for you, Mr. Tao. Mr. Tao smiled mysteriously. It's all right. Let's first gather some information about this place. What information do you want to gather, Mr. Tao? Do you think Smiling Sansheng is worth investigating? Not really, is he? Let's ask around. Chapter 643, Something Different from the Ancestral Dragoness Heart. Boom. Jianghu's blade struck the water. In that split second, he felt that something was about to surface from the seabed. It was probably a demonic beast. However, there was no trace of the creature. It's strange. I felt it making a move, but in an instant, it disappeared. Using the nameless manual, he could vaguely sense the escape route of the creature. He had no intention of pursuing it. Senior, we can continue on. We're almost there, Jianghu said to Hong Yuye. It had been several days since they left Ancient Spirit Island, and the abyssal sea was farther than expected. They reached their present location quickly thanks to Hong Yuya. Otherwise it might have taken much longer. There was a teleportation array to the abyssal sea, but it was too expensive. He didn't tell Hong Yuya about it. 2 days later, Jianghu and Hong Yuya stood on the sea surface and gazed at the distant island. We've arrived. After many days of traveling, they had finally reached an island near the abyssal sea. It wouldn't be long before Jianghu had to return to his sect. Now it was early November and they had just half a month left before their return to the sect. Overseas travels took time, and they had been relatively quick, thanks to Hong Yuya. Senior, let's first gather information on the island, Jianghu said. Hong Yuya glanced at him. Her eyes were calm. It was hard to guess what she was thinking. After a while, the two of them landed on the shore, where many people were fishing. Jianghu felt that there was a type of elusive demonic beast in the surrounding waters. It was similar to what he had encountered before. Are these people here to fish for that thing? Jianghu wondered but didn't ask aloud. First, he needed to settle in and then inquire about the members of the Great Thousand God sect. He wanted to see if he could make contact with them. If they were too strong, he might have to take Hong Yuya along with him. There was no need for a queue to enter or exit the area, and Jianghu took some time to find an inn. It was rather simple but not run down, which was a relief. However, when he entered the inn, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. He saw a young woman. She had a restrained aura, but her presence extended far, and her spiritual energy was vast. This was another powerful individual. Jianghu sighed inwardly. There were quite a few strong individuals overseas. Do you recognize me, disciple? He asked. The woman seemed somewhat surprised but said, I do. I have one question, the woman nodded. I'm Tanya, a guard on the 6th floor of the Heavenly Tower. The Heavenly Tower? Jianghu was surprised, but it made sense that they had found him so quickly. Yes, if you answer my question, I'll answer one of yours, Tanya said seriously. Please ask. Jianghu smiled. Since someone from the Heavenly Tower had come to him, it was an opportunity he couldn't pass up. I remember you went to Chaos Stone Island before. How did you leave before the ships came out? Tanya asked. Jianghu smiled and said, why take a ship to leave? But for someone at the early stage of the return to Void Realm, there is no other way to leave than the ship, said Tanya. Jianghu smiled but didn't say anything. His companion was not in the early stage of the return to Void Realm. Of course, it would be impossible to possess a magical treasure without sufficient cultivation, right? These matters could only be speculated. Alright, I'm not a fan of playing guessing games, but if you want to play, I can't help it. People I know like to play guessing games, so they're called seniors or juniors, while I'm just a guard. Tanya seemed very disdainful. What do you want to ask? I'll see if I feel like answering. Is there a Great Thousand God sect with over 3,000 members here? Jianghu asked. That was what he wanted to know. Yes. Tanya nodded. Do you know who they are and where they are? Jianghu asked. That is another question. There's a fee. Tanya held out her hand. Jianghu was speechless. He had a feeling that he was back in the task hall of the sect. In the end, he paid 1,000 spirit stones. Don't complain about the price later. You get what you pay for. While you might find out this information through investigation, it would take a lot of time, and there's no guarantee of accuracy. Moreover, investigating the members of the Great Thousand God sect carries a significant risk of discovery. I'm taking care of all that now, Tanya said. She made it clear that his spirit stones were well spent. Jianghu didn't say anything. 1,000 spirit stones for information was either a good deal or a ripoff. Either way, 1,000 spirit stones was quite a sum. Is there anything you want to know? I have a lot of contacts here and I can help you, Tanya said. About the southern region, Jianghu said. The southern region? Fenghua. Tanya asked. Why is Fenghua so famous? Jianghu was curious. Why does everyone keep mentioning him? Jianghu thought. Oh, her. She's quite famous in the southern region. I checked, Tanya said. Is there anything special about her? Jianghu asked. Nothing special, and she's not here. I can recommend someone who knows a lot about that, Tanya said as she looked outside. After a quick scan, she pointed in the direction of the coastline. She should be over there. One of the Great Thousand God sect's top 3,000 members. A covert elder who roams the northern regions. She appears to have a contentious relationship with Feng Hua, but in reality they get along quite. 1,000 spirit stones, she should be able to tell you something useful. Of course, if you're not looking for Feng Hua, it's better not to ask her. You can inquire with someone else who has better knowledge of the southern region. Tanya then pointed to someone on the street. This person is the elder responsible for liaising with the southern region and is well informed about many tasks. This individual is tough, so you need to find a good approach, preferably by identifying their weaknesses. It's quite challenging, so I recommend starting with the first option. Feng Hua has made quite a few enemies. Having some information on her can be used as a bargaining chip. In that case, I'll go with the first option, Jianghu said. Alright, here you go. Tanya tossed a jade slip to him and handed over a bell. Remember to take care of me the next time you have business. This can be used as long as you're in the sea. My people will find you as soon as possible. It won't work once you leave the sea area. After speaking, Tanya turned to leave. Jianghu looked bewildered. Were people from overseas usually this accommodating? However, he remembered that the senior at the task hall was quite accommodating as long as he had enough spirit stones. Oh, by the way, Tanya suddenly said, I'll tell you one more thing. It's said that there's been a new change in the abyssal sea. It seems like there's a different energy from the ancestral dragon's heart. If you have time, you might want to check it out. Why is she telling me this? Jianghu was puzzled. It's a freebie? I hope you'll be respectful to me the next time I find you, Tanya said. Jianghu was perplexed. But it didn't matter. For now he was smiling Sansheng. When he returned, smiling Sansheng would have nothing to do with him. Chapter 644. Needs to raise the price. Shengguan Qingsu, Immortal Ascension Platform. As Jianghu read the contents of the jade slip, he sighed. The deeper he went for the task set by Hong Yuye, the more he felt that his cultivation realm wasn't enough. He was quite confident, but now things were different. He could confront people here directly. Even exerting his full power would be difficult, unless he had Hong Yuye with him. However, with Hong Yuye his abilities would be suppressed. So he headed toward the coast alone. He already knew Shengguan Qingsu's appearance, so finding her shouldn't be too difficult. As for the bell, he sealed it without inspecting it till he had the chance to check if there was an issue. At the coastline, the main road of the city extended all the way to this place, with numerous pavilions built along the coast. Many people in these pavilions were fishing just like the people on the shore. They were all trying to catch something special. Even he had trouble detecting the creature now with the Nameless Manual and Hong Meng Heart Sutra. They were difficult to detect. It indicated that these creatures were extraordinary. After some time, Jianghu saw a woman sitting in one of the pavilions. There were 3 people in total in her pavilion, including her and 2 other men. Both men emitted an aura not weaker than the woman's. 3 people? This might be tricky. Jianghu hesitated for a moment and then appraised the woman. Afflicted by a curse and unable to use her full power while enduring agonizing pain? Curse of 100 nights? What kind of grievance led to such a curse? Jianghu was uncertain, and he didn't know when she was afflicted with it. Apart from this, there was something else that caught his attention. Nether fish? Can I earn spirit stones from it? It was likely that it could fetch a lot of spirit stones, or why else would so many people be fishing for it? As for the people around Shengguan Qingsu, Jianghu closed his eyes and activated the Nameless Manual. When he felt he had accumulated enough energy, he opened his eyes again. This time, he gazed at Shengguan Qingsu and noticed various fluctuations in her aura. Among these, there was a faint dark aura which was likely the curse. What surprised him was that all 3 people in her group had the same black aura. It indicated that they were all afflicted by the curse. However, he didn't detect this in anyone else nearby. It seemed that the 3 of them shared a similar experience. Jianghu quickly thought about it. Then he headed toward the pavilion. When he approached, the 3 people inside turned to look at him. They were all holding fishing rods and waiting for the fish to bite the bait. However, they were curious about the person who had entered their space. No one had dared to enter the pavilion before. I, smiling Sansheng, offer my respects to you seniors, he said. Young friend, you want to fish here? Shengguan Qingsu asked. She wore a green robe and had her hair in a simple bun. She was slightly pale. To her left was a middle-aged man with a stubble. He appeared quite rugged. To her right was a young man with an exceptionally pale complexion. He looked weak and feeble. You can sit here and fish. Just don't disturb us and pay 1,000 spirit stones, said Shengguan Qingsu. After that, she moved to the left to make room. The place was quite spacious and it could accommodate 4 more without a problem. Jianghu smiled and handed over 1,000 spirit stones. Then he took a seat. "Do you have any fishing rods?" he asked. 1,000 spirit stones for a day, Shengguan Qingsu said. She took out a fishing rod. It was a pretty decent magical treasure. Jianghu took the fishing rod. "Thank you, senior." He immediately gave her 1,000 spirit stones. He had never expected that he could sit here and fish. "Do you need bait?" Shengguan Qingsu asked. Jianghu smiled and shook his head. "No. I'm sure I'll catch what I'm looking for without bait." Shengguan Qingsu raised an eyebrow at that, but she didn't say much. The other 2 men were also silent. Jianghu felt the aura around him. After confirming that their dark auras were similar, he asked, "Senior, are you from the Great Thousand God sect?" "It seems you have done your homework on us," Shengguan Qingsu said nonchalantly. "Yes. I have some questions I'd like to ask you." Jianghu nodded. Since he was confident, there was no need to hide anything. Although he wasn't sure if he would succeed, he had to give it a try. Shengguan Qingsu gazed at the sea. "You can ask, but you'll have to pay the price with spirit stones. The more you pay, the more I'll answer." "I don't intend to pay spirit stones, senior." Jianghu smiled. After he said it, there was a pause and a pair of cold, disdainful eyes glanced at him. It seemed as though they might kick him out at any moment. Jianghu didn't pay any attention to her, and he continued to look at the sea. "Senior, if you want spirit stones to make your life easier, why bother seeking help from afar?" Shengguan Qingsu raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I suddenly thought of a question." Jianghu turned to look at Shengguan Qingsu beside him. Confronted with such cold gazes, he remained unfazed. "What do you want to ask?" Shengguan Qingsu said. "In 3 days, if I can help you go through the day safely without feeling any pain, I wonder how many spirit stones that's worth. Would it be enough to ask questions that I want to ask?" Jianghu said calmly. In an instant the individuals froze. Then they looked at Jianghu in amazement. Moreover, they even sealed the surrounding area. It wasn't clear whether it was to guard against others or to capture the person in front of them. Jianghu smiled but didn't say anything. He was also feeling anxious. With his current connection to the golden ring, he should have enough time to escape if something happened. As long as the immortal mountain sea shield could withstand 1 strike, he could leave safely. Soon Shengguan Qingsu dissipated her aura. She gazed at Jianghu. "How did you know about that?" Jianghu breathed a sigh of relief. He just continued with his fishing. "Senior, why bother asking? If it's hidden, I wouldn't have known. If it isn't hidden, then why wouldn't I find out about it?" he said. "Do you really have a way?" Shengguan Qingsu asked. The other 2 were also staring at Jianghu. "Yes, but it's limited to getting through the pain in 3 days from now," Jianghu said. "What do you want to ask?" Shengguan Qingsu asked. Jianghu looked at the sea and was silent for a while. Feng Hua's weakness. Feng Hua. Shengguan Qingsu frowned. "We are good friends and she has helped me several times before. She even risked her life to save me once." "So?" Jianghu was intrigued. "I have to raise the price," Shengguan Qingsu said seriously. Chapter 645. Taking along the 3 people to meet the Demoness. Raise the price. Jianghu looked at the person in front of him and frowned. That hadn't crossed his mind, but after a brief moment of hesitation, he slowly said, "Add 1 more person." He didn't want to give extra spirit stones, and twice the relief wasn't possible. The former was because he was short of spirit stones, and the latter was because it was impossible. So, he could only make a concession in terms of the number of people. Shengguan Qingsu extended 2 fingers. 2, and I'll answer your questions." Jianghu lowered his head. He didn't immediately respond. Instead, he focused on fishing quietly. The man beside them seemed somewhat dissatisfied. His aura surged. However, Jianghu was unfazed and sat still on the fishing platform. He had offered relief to 2 people. However, that offer was useless because all 3 of them had the same goal. Jianghu paused. 3 people with the same goal? The most significant aspect of the Great Thousand God sect that piqued his interest was the Great Thousand spiritual avatar. Could the other 2 people be avatars of Shengguan Qingsu? The primary body had achieved the immortal ascension platform. Had the avatars done the same? Jianghu thought that it was impossible. Regardless, he had to act like he was in a difficult position to make them feel like they had the upper hand. With that, she might answer him truthfully. Otherwise, she would hide things from him while answering his questions. Do you agree or not? Shengguan Qingsu's voice was cold. Jianghu turned to look at her. I have 2 conditions. Go on, Shengguan Qingsu immediately said. 1. I have to see if the information you provide is worth my help. If the information isn't worth my assistance, it would put me in a difficult position, Jianghu said. Shengguan Qingsu was silent for a moment. After a short while she said, What's the second condition? Secondly, Jianghu shook the fishing rod in his hand. Senior, can I have this fishing rod? Just that. Shengguan Qingsu seemed incredulous. She thought the second request would be very demanding. She didn't expect it to be so simple. Yeah, just that. Jianghu nodded with a smile. All right, Shengguan Qingsu said. The fishing rod is yours. But you owe me 1,100 spirit stones. However, the fishing rod was also a decent magical treasure and of good quality. It was worth around 1,000 to 2,000 spirit stones. The only issue was that fishing rods were quite uncommon and not easy to sell. What would you like to know? Shengguan Qingsu asked. What is Feng Hua's weakness? Jianghu got straight to the point. Weakness? Shengguan Qingsu frowned. Her appearance. Besides her appearance? Jianghu asked. Shengguan Qingsu raised an eyebrow. You knew about that. Jianghu smiled but didn't say anything. The woman in front of him was surprised. She didn't hide her emotions. It seems you're not as simple as I thought. There aren't many people who know this, and each of the ones who do are quite powerful. It's not something you can find out while just being in the Return to Void realm, she said. Senior, please continue, Jianghu said. Besides her looks, she's also very concerned about a particular avatar located in the Sunset Immortal sect. This avatar has a perfect appearance, at least in her eyes, and is incomparable. She visited all 4 regions. East, West, South, and North. But she only stopped for that avatar. She stayed in the southern region from then on. She has other motives for staying in the south as well. Nevertheless, it's this avatar that makes her unwilling to leave the south. She said that this avatar lives as she most desires and has invested most of her emotions into her. So, there is such an avatar. Jianghu was amazed. What kind of avatar would make her feel that way? There were countless avatars. People couldn't find her main body. It was almost impossible, but she was willing to stay in one place just because of an avatar. Indeed, Feng Hua is quite extraordinary, Jianghu said with a soft laugh. For both her appearance and her obsession with that particular avatar, she's truly an emotional individual. He couldn't help but wonder whether these emotions might be a bit twisted. Indeed, she's quite unique, Shengguan Qingsu said. Her recent behavior in the last few decades has been especially strange. It seems she has been in contact with someone remarkable. Someone remarkable? Jianghu made a mental note of it. Who is the avatar? Jianghu asked. Shengguan Qingsu didn't hesitate to answer. She's a young lady Yin Shang, the daughter of an elder in the Sunset Immortal sect. Jianghu was somewhat frustrated because he didn't have anyone that he knew in the Sunset Immortal sect. In fact, he had enemies there, which would make it challenging to gather information from there. Nevertheless, having some information was still better than having none. Is there anything else? Jianghu asked. Nothing. Shengguan Qingsu shook her head. How many weaknesses do you want? A couple isn't enough? Jianghu nodded. He wasn't greedy. One more weakness would do. After he finished eating the fruits from the tranquil fruit tree, he would pay a visit and greet the young lady. That way Feng Hua would know not to mess with him. Of course he would do it as smiling Sansheng. After completing that, he would need to return as his old self and wait patiently. He had to become stronger. Only then would he have a safer future. As time went on, it became increasingly difficult for him to communicate on an equal footing with others, let alone with Heavenly King Taomu. Even though he could have a good conversation with Shengguan Qingsu now, he was still limited in his actions. If she made a move against him, he didn't know if he could even escape safely. Is there anything else you want to ask? Shengguan Qingsu asked. Are you looking for a reward, senior? Jianghu asked with a smile. If you can't do what you promised, I will kill you, Shengguan Qingsu said bluntly. Then let's go. I'll take you to a place where you can wait for my arrangements, Jianghu said. The 3 of them looked at each other and agreed with Jianghu. Their plan was simple. They would capture this person if he really had the ability to help them. If they could seize what they wanted, they would. If not, they would imprison him for life. Jianghu put away his fishing rod. Although he didn't know what these people were thinking, greed was basic human nature, especially when powerful people were concerned. Plundering someone's belongings was merely because they had caught their eye, and it wasn't their concern if the owner couldn't defend them. Jianghu just assumed that people would act that way. So he would take them to the inn and ask for Hong Yuye's help. As for suppressing their pain, this was even easier. Even the most formidable curse would be negated by the mere presence of the heavenly fate misfortune pearl. After we're done, what are your plans, seniors? Jianghu asked as they walked. Many people are fishing here. Is the catch decent? Some are offering 50,000 spirit stones for one nether fish, said Shengguan Qingsu. Jianghu was so stunned that he stopped in his tracks. Should he go back to fishing? Chapter 646. Why does the sea god pill seem inexpensive? Why aren't you walking? Shengguan Qingsu asked. The other two men seemed curious too. Jianghu walked ahead. Nothing. I'm just curious as to what kind of fish would fetch such a high price. He wanted to go back to fishing, but a more pressing matter required his attention. No matter how many spirit stones they had, it wouldn't matter if they didn't have their lives. This place is close to the abyssal sea. The nether fish can enter and exit it safely. Some people who want to enter or exit the abyssal sea offer high prices to get the fish to study how it does it, said Shengguan Qingsu. Is it for the ancestral dragon's heart? Jianghu asked. Shengguan Qingsu thought for a moment. You're quite well informed. But some people seem to be after more than just the ancestral dragon's heart. There are rumors that the abyssal sea holds the secret to becoming a heavenly king. Some say it houses the true rebirth of a dragon, while others claim it's a sanctuary for the true dragon clan. Recently, rumors have been rampant. It's difficult to verify the truth. One thing is clear. There have been changes in the abyssal sea, which have led to various speculations. The nether fish is the key. Jianghu nodded and recalled what the person before had said. There were changes related to the ancestral dragon's heart. Now, it seemed he had a vague answer, although it was still unclear whether this was the case or not. Nevertheless, it was better to know something than nothing. What kind of person can enter the abyssal sea and return alive? Jianghu asked. You're not from the Heavenly River region, are you? Shengguan Qingsu asked. I'm not familiar with this area. Jianghu smiled. She didn't press him further. No one who enters the abyssal sea comes back unscathed. Even the heavenly kings have a hard time returning. It's said that someone did enter and return, but it's unclear whether that story is true. Who was that person? Jianghu asked. The first master of the heavenly tower, Shengguan Qingsu said. Have others tried asking him about it? Jianghu asked. Of course, but since that time, the first master has isolated himself and hasn't seen anyone, Shengguan Qingsu said. Jianghu nodded. The reputation of the fifth master of the heavenly tower was well deserved. After a while, they reached the inn and Jianghu asked them how many rooms they needed. They took one room and asked when they could begin. Jianghu gave them a rough answer and told them to prepare. He didn't want to hand over the heavenly fate misfortune pearl to them. It was too dangerous. Instead, he planned to use formations to establish contact and attempt to suppress the curse on their bodies. He didn't have to do this himself though. He planned to consult Hong Yuye about it and also inform her that Shengguan Qingsu might try to take action against him in 3 days. Now that he knew Feng Hua's weakness, he had made significant progress. Hong Yuye didn't have to help him. If she chose not to, he would have to deal with these people alone. For the next 3 days, the three of you will stay here. I won't leave from here. Don't worry, he said and then left the room. As they watched Jianghu leave, Shengguan Qingsu and the others sat down on the floor. The middle-aged man said, Is he trustworthy? Regardless of whether we trust him or not, we need to try it, Shengguan Qingsu said. Be prepared and don't let him get away. If he really possesses this ability, he surely holds some valuable treasures or knows how to break the curse. The other two nodded in agreement, and they focused their power on a corner of the inn. All of their power would be focused on Jianghu. There was no way they'd let him escape. You certainly know how to stir up trouble. When Jianghu entered Hong Yuye's room, he saw her eyeing him. He sensed the actions of Shengguan Qingsu all too clearly. It was far too obvious. They weren't even trying to conceal anything. He sighed inwardly and closed the door behind him. Senior, I was a bit reckless in my actions. I was eager to complete the task you gave me. Fortunately, I found out quite a bit today. It was rash to provoke someone in the Immortal Ascension platform, especially with Hong Yuye present. No matter how brave he was, he wouldn't willingly take on such a task. Tell me about it. Hong Yuye turned toward the window. Jianghu walked over to take a look, but it was just a view of the street and buildings. He couldn't understand what was so interesting about it to her. After brewing some fresh tea, Jianghu explained everything. An avatar in the Sunset Immortal sect? Hong Yuye was also surprised. Have you thought about how to deal with this avatar? I haven't decided yet. I'm considering whether I should confront the avatar in person or use some other method, Jianghu said. This matter was complicated and he needed to be cautious. Since Feng Hua valued the avatar so dearly, she must have made thorough preparations. How are you so certain the curse will erupt 3 days from now? Her sudden, brilliant smile caught Jianghu off guard, but he quickly regained his composure. He just remained silent because he didn't know how to explain it. Hong Yuye didn't seem to mind. If you plan to use the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl to help them suppress it, aren't you worried they'll turn against you once it's done? Yes. Jianghu nodded. Then go and do it. If I have to step in later, remember that you'll have to pay the price, Hong Yuye said. Jianghu hesitated for a moment. I don't have any knowledge of formation. Hong Yuye cast him a disapproving glance. I've spent quite some time on cultivation, growing spirit herbs, tree planting, learning the forms of heavenly blade, body techniques, crafting talismans and understanding them. I didn't have time to learn much about formations, he said. Besides, he didn't have much talent when it came to formations. Moreover, the cost of learning formation arrays was too high. Studying it himself wasn't an option. Hong Yuye casually placed a piece of paper on the table and a small box. I won't let you go unrewarded, she said. When he opened the box, he was stunned. It was a sea god pill. This was truly a valuable item that had saved his life on 2 occasions. But why did he feel like this divine pill wasn't as rare as he'd thought? Jianghu left the room. 2 days later, in the middle of the night, it was time for the curse to take effect. Sitting cross-legged within the formation, Shangguan Qingsu and the other 2 were extremely anxious. They had prepared many things over the past few days, all in the hope of lessening the pain. At this moment they were apprehensive. They wanted to minimize their suffering. They even thought of sparing this mysterious person if he could help them. Soon, the curse marks started appearing on their foreheads. All 3 of them were terrified. Didn't the curse diminish in the slightest? It was useless. It was no use believing in a return to Void Realm Cultivator after all. Now, they had no way to stop him if he decided to run. Chapter 647, The Demoness in the Inn. Jianghu was in the room adjacent to Shangguan Qingsu and the others. He sat within a formation and was able to perceive the changes in their curses. The formation given to him by Hong Yuye was indeed quite remarkable. Now, he could sense the condition of the 3 people and even feel the flow of their energy. The curses seemed to originate from their primordial spirits and bloodline, gather on their foreheads and then spread out. Their bodies were warped under the curse's influence as if it were twisting their flesh and primordial spirits. It made them helpless. He could hear a muffled sound. Maybe the 3 people were biting on something to endure the pain. It wasn't that Jianghu couldn't stop it. He wanted these people to experience pain so that he could suppress their suffering completely. This way they wouldn't think that he was lying. It would save him a lot of trouble. About a quarter of an hour passed, and Jianghu calmly took out the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl. He placed it within the formation. He allowed the curse on the other side to sense the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl. On the other side, Shangguan Qingsu and the 2 men remained seated cross-legged. However, they grimaced in pain and struggled. A muffled sound rang out. The pain was unbearable. A dim red glow appeared on their foreheads, extended all over their bodies and dimmed again with each breath. Every breath was agonizing. It seemed like a fate worse than death. Shameless liar. Shangguan Qingsu gritted her teeth. It was futile. They had been deceived by smiling Sansheng. It was their own impatience that had led to this. They should have tried to find out more about the person. How can you say that, senior? I'm sincere about this deal, said Jianghu from the other room. The pain is only temporary. I'll make a move now. Shangguan Qingsu and the 2 men no longer believed Jianghu. They believed the curse couldn't be stopped. They had consulted many people and couldn't suppress it even slightly. However, as doubt appeared in their minds, they suddenly went still. The pain seemed to disappear all of a sudden. Moreover, the red glow of the curses on their foreheads also dimmed, and the curses seemed to retract swiftly until only the imprints on their foreheads remained. Even the forehead marks disappeared after a while. It felt as though the curse was fleeing. The sudden change left them in disbelief, as if they had imagined it. They had used so many ways to try and find a cure. Was this real? They couldn't understand how their curse had been dispelled. With the pain gone, they felt a need to possess whatever treasure had made this possible. But soon they suppressed this greed. Now wasn't the time. They would wait until tomorrow. After a moment of calm, they realized the curse's effects had truly disappeared. Not only had the pain subsided, but they also felt they could use their full power. This was quite unbelievable. For a moment, they suspected whether the curse had naturally dissipated, and smiling Sansheng was just taking the credit for it to deceive them. The three of them glanced at each other. Finally, the middle-aged man moved one step outside the formation. In an instant, his forehead glowed with a dark red light, and the power of the curse spread throughout his body. Awe. His face twisted in agony once again. He bent over in pain and fell to the ground. He couldn't even stand up. Shengguan Qingsu and the other man turned pale. They were terrified when they saw the middle-aged man struggling to crawl back into the formation. "Seniors, it seems you don't trust me," said Jianghu from next door. Shengguan Qingsu dared not speak. When the middle-aged man crawled back into the formation, the curse was once again suppressed. They confirmed that Jianghu indeed had the ability to nullify the curse. After much hesitation, Shengguan Qingsu suddenly asked, "Fellow disciple, do you have a way to remove the curse from our bodies?" "I don't." Jianghu shook his head. He had asked Hong Yuya about it, but she hadn't responded, which meant it was impossible. He could also ask Gui, but he was hesitant to ask her. What if she demanded a price that he couldn't pay? What about further suppression? Shengguan Qingsu persisted. Naturally, there's no way to do it. I can only do this once, Jianghu said. Giving them hope would only make them cling to him. Shengguan Qingsu looked at the middle-aged man writhing on the ground and fell silent. There was no further exchange between the two sides. This situation had to be maintained for a full day and night. They would have to wait here until the next night. In the adjacent room, Jianghu sat cross-legged in silence. He took out 9 nether from his pocket. There would be problems if it was away from the heavenly fate misfortune pearl for too long. Jianghu waited for the right moment. He wanted to appraise Shengguan Qingsu and see if she had any intention of making a move against him. If they decided to make a move, they would learn that there were always stronger individuals out there. Even within the inn there was Hong Yuya. The next morning on the coast, Mr. Tao sat high on a fishing platform accompanied by a young woman, Tangya. "Mr. Tao, what's the point of fishing? It's so boring." "Fishing can help cultivate one's temperament." Mr. Tao smiled. "Zhu Shen would have been quieter than you if he was here." "In that case, Mr. Tao, please don't bring me along next time." "I didn't want to come out," Tangya said helplessly. "Your conversation is too hard to follow, and there's too much scheming and no fighting." "Did you see smiling Sansheng before?" Mr. Tao suddenly asked. "Yes. I gave him a bell. I thought he was a good business partner," Tangya said. "Do you want to get to know him? He is only at the return to Void Realm. We don't need to worry, right?" "What do you think my cultivation realm is?" Mr. Tao asked. "Return to Void Realm. You suppressed it as a part of your disguise," said Tangya without hesitation. "In that case, Mr. Tao smiled meaningfully. "In that case what?" Tangya asked curiously. Mr. Tao didn't explain further. "Never mind. When is Senior Zhu coming?" "I want to switch with him," Tangya said. "It should be soon, but you can't do what he can. Bear with me for a while." Mr. Tao laughed. "Mr. Zhu, all the people have been brought aboard." Zhu Shen stood on the deck and gazed into the distance through the fog. At that moment, a large ship in front of him was forced to stop because people from other forces had also arrived. He had to get on the ship before the others. Entering the fog was a bit risky, but it was worth it. There were too many people outside. He glanced at the people on the deck, and among them, the leading figures were an old and a young woman. They looked at him in shock. "Mr. Zhu, what do you mean by this?" the old woman asked warily. "It seems you've met a formidable enemy. Your surveillance eye is gone." "This saves me some trouble," Zhu Shen said calmly. After that, he took a step forward and headed toward the large ship. Everyone gather on the deck. Or else don't blame me for being brutal. Zhu Shen's voice reverberated throughout the ship. Chapter 648, The Demoness. Explain then, I'm listening. Zhu Shen descended from the sky and positioned himself at the highest point of the deck. He looked down at everyone below. Senior, may I ask what brings you here? Li asked respectfully. It's a minor matter. Don't worry about it, my friend, Zhu Shen said politely. At that moment he looked at everyone on the deck. Something seemed to activate in his hand as if he was searching for something. Mi Lingyue was extremely surprised. The first disciple of the sixth master of the heavenly tower? Why would someone this powerful come here? Madam, be careful, said her maid. They were worried. Such a person was beyond their ability to confront. Don't worry. The others are fine. People from the heavenly tower, on the other hand, won't dare to harm me, Mi Lingyue said. She couldn't help but wonder. If it weren't for something significant, Zhu Shen wouldn't be here. He had even ventured into the fog and intercepted a large ship. Our people should have received the message and they'll be coming soon, one of the maids said. There are more people who are afraid of us than we are of them, especially the people of Heavenly King Budong. They even have the blood of true dragon. Mi Lingyue chuckled. However, she also knew that everyone here had sent for reinforcements. The people should be waiting just outside the fog and would arrive soon. But to Mi Lingyue's surprise, Zhu Shen walked straight up to Jing Fengyun. Why was he doing this? Even Jing Fengyun was bewildered. Why would such a distinguished senior approach him? His cultivation problem had been resolved, and he had left Chaos Stone Island. However, he hadn't expected to encounter someone of this stature right after leaving. Young friend, are you free? Would you be willing to join me for a chat? Zhu Shen asked politely. Did Jing Fengyun dare to say no? Jing Fengyun was led away by Zhu Shen. I apologize for any trouble we've caused. Please go about your business. A loud voice resounded on the ship. Then the ship belonging to Zhu Shen retreated. Others were somewhat surprised. They heaved a sigh of relief, especially those related to Heavenly King Budong. However, safety was only temporary and danger could return at any time. On Zhu Shen's ship, Jing Fengyun watched the people around him in a daze. As senior, what do you want me to do? Before Zhu Shen could say anything, the old woman said, Mr. Zhu, aren't you going too far? Too tar? Zhu Shen chuckled. I've gone too tar, someone will undoubtedly hold me accountable, but there's no need to worry about that now. Don't think you can do as you please just because Mr. Lu favors you. What you've done today will surely be punished by the heavenly tower, the old woman said loudly. Zhu Shen ignored her and turned to Jing Fengyun. Young friend, can I see your storage treasure? Jing Fengyun didn't dare to hesitate and immediately handed over his belongings. Don't give it to him. You have someone backing you. What are you afraid he will do? Put it away. The old woman shouted. Jing Fengyun was baffled. Someone backing me? This was Mr. Zhu, who could speak in front of the heavenly kings. He didn't even count. He had never even seen a heavenly king's face before, much less speak to them. Zhu Shen took the storage treasure and pulled out a jade scroll containing only 3 pieces of jade slips. Seeing this, the old woman was excited and terrified. Zhu Shen breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally intercepted Madame Gong's token. Mr. Tao's prediction was right. Who do you work for? He asked. Jing Fengyun knew what Zhu Shen was looking for. The jade scroll had been given to him by the old woman as a trade deal. She asked him to take it out of the island. He hadn't expected to run into someone of Zhu Shen's caliber immediately after leaving. The person behind him isn't someone you can provoke. Go and ask your people if Chaos Stone Island has encountered a force that made it tremble. Jing Fengyun was working for that person. If you ask your people, they will tell you everything, said the old woman. Zhu Shen looked toward a man in the corner. He was the one who had given Jianghu 2,000 spirit stones. Jing Fengyun did tasks for Smiling Sansheng on Chaos Stone Island, and Smiling Sansheng entered the 7-day village. He met Madame Gong there. We saw a terrifying force that shook the whole island. It might have been Smiling Sansheng trying to intimidate Madame Gong. Mr. Zhu, you should be careful in handling this, the man said truthfully. Zhu Shen nodded. In that case, I'll take him to Mr. Tao. Since I've crossed paths with Smiling Sansheng, I believe Mr. Tao has as well. This should help clarify the situation. Then Zhu Shen looked at the others. The rest of you should return. They nodded. Zhu Shen disappeared into the sea with Jing Fengyun. Jing Fengyun realized that nobody cared about his opinion. Not that he had any particular opinion to offer. These people said whatever they wanted and they knew best. After all, their status was much higher than his. More importantly, he seemed to have unknowingly found a backer. All of this was because he had done a job for Smiling Sansheng. Is he really Smiling Sansheng and not an imposter? What have I done? Jing Fengyun was filled with remorse. He had had a way out, but he had carelessly lost it. Jianghu opened his eyes and touched the wall lightly. At once he saw the three people, Shengguan Qingsu and the two men. They also noticed him. He appraised her. Jianghu sighed. He planned to leave with the heavenly fate misfortune pearl. Senior, feel the pain a bit more. I'll be waiting for you. Jianghu's voice reached Shengguan Qingsu and the others, and he disappeared in an instant using the golden ring. At this moment, agonizing howls filled the air. Meanwhile, Jianghu stood in Hong Yuye's room. He saw her drinking tea. He sat down as well. Is it over? Will they come up? Hong Yuye asked. Jianghu nodded. Judging by their condition, they should. Hong Yuye lifted her teacup. Have you thought about what price you're willing to pay? He couldn't afford another September spring. He'd already spent his spirit stones on the beast and the immortal peach tree. He only had a little over 100,000 spirit stones left. Still not sure. Hong Yuye's cold eyes flickered. I will brew you a pot of September spring, senior, Jianghu quickly said. Hong Yuye smiled. When there's no urgency, you can't afford it. When needed, you can buy it multiple times. It seems you're becoming more and more bold around me. Jianghu was surprised. Senior, please don't misunderstand. Please allow me to explain. Explain then. I'm listening, she said with a smile. Jianghu was speechless. Chapter 649. Seniors, let me see you off. Seeing Hong Yuye's serious face, Jianghu felt somewhat worried. Various things flashed through his mind, but he ultimately decided to stall for time. Senior, please allow me to explain, Jianghu said in a calm voice. Hong Yuye looked amused. She remained silent. It's like this. I've been thinking about this matter for a long time, Jianghu said. How long? Hong Yuye suddenly asked. Since I met you, senior, I've never dared to be negligent, Jianghu said as he bowed his head. Senior, your awe-inspiring presence, outstanding virtue, combat prowess, and exceptional fame have left a deep impression on me. I've always made buying good quality tea my priority. Hong Yuye glanced at him and laughed. Go on. Jianghu lowered his head and glanced outside. Normally by now the second day would have arrived, so why hadn't Shengguan Qingsu and the others attacked? The matter with the tea encountered too many unexpected setbacks, which delayed it for quite some time. Otherwise, I would have prepared the best to satisfy you, Jianghu said. Oh. Hong Yuye showed a bit of interest. What kind of unexpected setbacks? List them one by one. Jianghu lowered his head and fell silent. He couldn't explain further as that would only get him into trouble. He had no choice but to maintain his silence. Hong Yuye smiled. It seems like someone is looking for you outside. Jianghu felt relieved. I'll go outside and check. When he opened the door, he saw three people kneeling at the entrance. Their limbs trembled, their faces were filled with fear, and their heads were pressed to the ground. It was as though they had encountered the most terrifying thing in their lives. Seniors, why are you doing this? Jianghu held the Thousand Faces treasure fan and fanned himself slowly. We didn't know any better. Please show us mercy, senior. Shengguan Qingsu trembled. Jianghu smiled. All right. Do you have any other matters to discuss, seniors? If not, our deal has already concluded. You may leave. The three individuals raised their heads and exchanged glances. Would you like it if I saw you out? Asked Jianghu. No. We dare not, the three of them said in fear. After that, they got up and retreated. Jianghu was quite surprised by their behavior. What had these three encountered? However, he suddenly realized that he needed to leave as well. Seniors, please stay. Allow me to escort you out, he said as he closed the door and followed them. However, Shengguan Qingsu and the others were terrified. Jianghu saw them off downstairs and they left. Only then did they snap back to reality. What do we do now? Asked the pale-faced man. Do you think he can use the ability from yesterday once again? Shengguan Qingsu asked. No one answered. They didn't know these things. When they went after him, they realized their insignificance. There were such powerful individuals overseas, but they rarely ever saw them. Even when they did, these powerful people might not be willing to help them. Smiling Sansheng, Shengguan Qingsu frowned and sighed. Let's return to our clan and tell them of this. This was the first time they had felt the curse being successfully suppressed. Jianghu watched them leave and breathed a sigh of relief. He was much safer now. He hadn't earned many spirit stones from this interaction. He still needed to buy September Spring. He was only fulfilling Hong Yuye's task. However, she acted like she wasn't involved in this, and he was just asking for favors from her. It was difficult to predict the actions of the strong. He had taken a stroll around but couldn't find any proper shops. What's going on? If he couldn't find big shops around, he wouldn't be able to buy September Spring. He asked the shopkeeper who sold talismans why there weren't any shops near. This place used to be deserted, and the current crowd was on temporarily there. That was why there weren't many large shops here. Jianghu tossed a spirit stone to the shopkeeper. Do you know where I can buy September Spring tea? You can ask a powerful cultivator. Some high-level cultivators might have a reserve, the stall owner said with a smile. Jianghu nodded. Given the proximity to the Abyssal Sea, there were plenty of powerful cultivators around. Some of them might offer September Spring if they wanted to form a connection. He asked around but didn't find anyone selling September Spring. Although it was in high demand, it was uncommon in this area. He thought he might as well go fishing. He had already completed half of his mission, and the rest depended on the changes in the Abyssal Sea. However, that was not easy. The information about the heart of the ancestral dragon had already been circulating for quite some time, yet there were no clear developments. He would have to wait for more information. Jianghu's main goal wasn't the heart of the ancestral dragon. It was the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. That object was even more obscure. There was also the possibility that he would have to venture into the Abyssal Sea for it. He had heard that there were new changes there which made him think of the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. However, the details remained vague, and it would likely cost him spirit stones to obtain more information. Maybe I should look for Tangya. Jianghu had already appraised Tangya. Unlike Madame Gong, she wasn't scheming against him. At the waterfront, Jianghu happened to see Tangya. She was leaning against a pavilion pillar. Her gaze was somewhat vacant. Beside her was a burly man who sat by the fishing platform. He seemed steady and calm. He was incredibly powerful. Without even sensing his aura, Jianghu could guess that the man was exceptional. It seemed that the Abyssal Sea was indeed no ordinary place. The fact that people gathered here indicated that they were all powerful cultivators, or perhaps they had powerful backers. Only strong individuals had the qualifications to compete for the heart of the ancestral dragon. Smiling Sansheng? Tangya's eyes lit up when she saw Jianghu. Miss Tangya, Jianghu said politely. He had intended to leave because he didn't want to interact with someone so powerful. Mr. Tao also looked over in surprise. Friend, do you want to do some fishing? He appeared calm and friendly. Middle stage of the return to Void Realm? Jianghu was a bit surprised that this man had suppressed his cultivation to such a low level. From various signs, it was evident that this individual was extraordinary. He was possibly the most powerful person he had encountered during his time overseas. Thank you, but I have some urgent matters to attend to, so I can't stay, Jianghu said politely. Are you really not going to stay? Tangya asked. Mr. Tao knows a lot of things. You can ask anything. It'll be much more efficient and informative than asking around. Besides, if you ask him about Fenghua, he won't demand spirit stones from you, unlike Shengguan Qingsu. Jianghu and Mr. Tao both were at a loss for words. Jianghu felt embarrassed to just leave while Mr. Tao forced a smile and hoped this person would insist on leaving. Chapter 650, The Fish Takes the Bait. Jianghu wanted to leave but realized that what Tangya said made sense. Moreover, individuals of the caliber like Mr. Tao were unlikely to act recklessly. Furthermore, the way Tangya addressed this man piqued his interest. In the Heavenly Tower, very few were addressed as Mr. If someone as formidable as Tangya was addressing him with respect, he must be someone powerful. Jianghu glanced at the robust man who was fishing. He felt that the person might be from the Heavenly Tower like Madame Gong. However, he didn't know who he was exactly. Well then. It'd be impolite of me to refuse, said Jianghu. If this person were truly a Mister of the Heavenly Tower, he could provide valuable information. After taking a seat nearby, Jianghu took out a fishing rod and began fishing. Aren't you going to use bait? Tanya asked curiously. Anything willing will bite, Jianghu said mysteriously. It wasn't that he lacked bait, but he could sense that the fish here weren't interested in it. He didn't know what they liked to eat. Anything willing will bite? Tanya frowned. You're as boring as Mr. Tao. Jianghu smiled and remained silent. Did you come here alone, disciple Sansheng? Mr. Tao asked. Do you know me? Jianghu asked. He knew that this man was well informed, but he needed to continue the conversation somehow. If he just answered this person's questions, he might be led in a certain direction and wouldn't get to ask what he wanted. I have heard of you from many people, Mr. Tao said with a smile. Everyone calls me Mr. Tao. You can call me that too if you don't mind. Jianghu nodded politely. He now had a rough idea of who his person was, but he needed more information. Did you come here for the ancestral dragon's heart? Mr. Tao asked. Jianghu shook his head. I don't have the ability to compete for the ancestral dragon's heart. Is it because of the new aura that has appeared? It seems to be emanating from beneath the abyssal sea. It has grown more active in the past few days, as if something is calling it or resonating with it, Mr. Tao said. Jianghu was surprised. Are you saying something has emerged from the abyssal sea? It's possible, but no one has ventured in to confirm. It's too dangerous to enter, and those who do never return with news, Mr. Tao said. Could it be that someone from inside is trying to get out? Jianghu asked. He remembered that Heavenly King Hai Luo's lover was in that sea, and Hai Luo was doing everything in his power to help her. Perhaps that had some effect. Nobody knows for sure, as no one has seen it themselves. Some people plan to go in with the nether fish. If they find anything, they will communicate the message through the nether fish, Mr. Tao said. Jianghu nodded. Those who entered probably wouldn't be able to leave again. Something else has happened, Mr. Tao said as he looked out at the sea. The ancestral dragon's heart also seems to have become more active. Many people have sensed it, and it seems to be related to the sudden changes in the area. If it is related to a person, that's fine, but many are concerned that a true dragon might appear. A true dragon? Jianghu looked toward the abyssal sea. It wasn't impossible. It was normal for the dragon clan to be there. He had only met a young dragon named Shaoli. If he could peacefully communicate with a true dragon, he might be able to ask about Shaoli. It's just speculation though. They say that the blood of a true dragon has been sent out from Chaos Stone Island and will arrive in a few days. That is expected to create quite a stir, Mr. Tao said. Jianghu nodded and remained silent. He could sense the presence of a nether fish nearby. He saw one of the fish hovering near Mr. Tao's bait. Can he not see it? Jianghu was surprised. He had discovered traces of the fish by extending his senses, but he wasn't sure if Mr. Tao could sense it. By the way, Mr. Tao suddenly said, do you know Jing Fengyun? Jing Fengyun? Jianghu was surprised. Do you also know him, Mr. Tao? They say he works for you? Mr. Tao looked at Jianghu. Sort of. Jianghu nodded. Jing Fengyun was a decent person who had helped him a lot. Then, in the next few days, if you come here again, my people will bring him here, Mr. Tao said. Jianghu was puzzled, but he didn't ask more questions. After a while, Jianghu put away his fishing rod and prepared to leave. You're leaving? Tanya, who had been leaning against the pillar, asked. How about staying for a while? When you're not talking with Mr. Tao, you almost seem like a normal person. Jianghu smiled and shook his head. The fish is taking the bait and it's time for me to leave. Huh? Tanya was puzzled. She particularly disliked people who talked in vague, cryptic ways instead of having conversations like a normal person. Jianghu appraised Mr. Tao before he left. He was relieved that he hadn't been discovered. Then he turned and left. Mr. Tao, what did smiling Sansheng mean when he said the fish has taken the bait? Asked Tanya curiously. Mr. Tao shook his head. I don't know. By the way, next time, don't be so direct with him. You know either, Mr. Tao. You guys are so complicated, Tanya was surprised. Mr. Tao looked down at the fishing rod and sighed. It seems it's time to leave. Huh? Tanya was confused. In the next moment, Mr. Tao raised his fishing rod. In an instant, a pitch-black fish burst out of the water. You caught it? Tangya was astonished. So, Smiling Sanshin was talking about this. He remembered that the nether fish couldn't be detected. Normal cultivators couldn't see them, so how did he sense it? Don't think too much about it. You won't understand it anyway. Let's go and sell the fish. Mr. Tao put the fishing rod away. Tangya, as his guard, was naturally the one who handled such matters. On the road, Jianghu stood by the grass with his hands behind his back. He appeared to be admiring the scenery, but his mind was in turmoil. Before appraising Mr. Tao, he had maintained his composure. But after the appraisal, it was different. The information had shaken him. Shifting star technique? Jianghu sighed. Mr. Tao holds a high position and possesses astonishing power. He even has the shifting star technique within him. He came here specifically to meet Smiling San. This undoubtedly hinted at one thing. This person might be Lu. I wonder if there were any signs of error just now. Chapter 651, 18 True Dragon Protecting the Heart. Jianghu never expected that this person would be Lu. He had thought it was just another high-ranking member of the Heavenly Tower, but it turned out to be someone he was somewhat familiar with. He does look similar. I wonder what he's thinking now. Smiling Sansheng might not necessarily be Jing. In the future, I need to meet him, so I need to keep my distance and not linger here for too long. The difference in strength was too great, so he couldn't get involved too much. I kind of want to go back. Jianghu sighed. Being outside was all well and good, but it wasn't as safe as being in the sect. With his current cultivation realm, he was too weak in this place. He could go back and tend to spirit herbs or head to the mines as punishment. However, his task was not done yet, which was rather frustrating. I wonder if the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl will appear. If it doesn't appear, should I just go back? If it took a long time, he couldn't stay here unless there was a mine here. Jianghu couldn't help but feel that he needed to ask around to find out more. After asking around a bit, he actually found a mine. It was just that the ore was rather common, and the people who needed it couldn't get here, while the people who could get here didn't think much of it. These people are really wasteful. Jianghu found the location in the middle of the night. Then he took out a hoe to start digging. The mine was on a small hill. It was sturdy. He felt that he might find something here. Perhaps he could find more bubbles here. What are you doing? Asked a sudden voice from behind. At the sound, Jianghu froze. He turned to see a woman in a red and white gown. It was Hong Yuya. Under the moonlight, she looked stunning in her red and white dress. Her calm gaze seemed to hide a killing intent. It made him nervous. I heard there might be something extraordinary here, so I came to take a look. I wanted to present it to you, Senior, he said. Hong Yuya chuckled. Pack up your things and get ready. The Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl is about to appear. Jianghu was surprised. Let's go to the Abyssal Sea, Hong Yuya said. All right. Jianghu nodded and put his things away. Then he headed toward the direction of the Abyssal Sea with Hong Yuya. They traveled very fast. However, it wasn't as close as he had imagined. It took them about half a day to reach the endless darkness in the starry sky. It was as if there was a hole in the parallel lines of the starry sky. The sea flowed and surged and flowed downwards. There was no echo in the pitch-black area. Jianghu frowned. He couldn't see clearly. There was something interfering with his perception and vision. We have to wait for dawn. If you want to see the appearance of the Abyssal Sea, you need the light of daybreak. The person next to him dropped from the high altitude. It was an old man. Jianghu couldn't see his cultivation realm. Do you know this place well, Senior? I have some understanding of it, but what are you here for, Junior? Asked the old man with a smile. I came to see the heart of the ancestral dragon. Why else would someone come here if not for the heart of the ancestral dragon? His goal was the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl, but he mentioned the heart of the ancestral dragon to the old man. The heart of the ancestral dragon is invisible. The old man shook his head and smiled. Jianghu didn't say anything more but stayed in place and waited. If Hong Yuya said the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl was about to appear, it probably would. He was more concerned about the Abyssal Sea. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but he could feel a force emanating from within. It was just hard to capture. It was even harder to discern what kind of force it was. I heard that Heavenly King Budong got hold of True Dragon's blood. Perhaps when the True Dragon's blood comes near, the dragon's heart will appear, said the old man. I wonder when the people of Heavenly King Budong will arrive, Jianghu said. The old man thought for a moment. It should be in the next day or two. They will send it over as quickly as possible. Maybe it isn't the true dragon's blood that summons the ancestral dragon's heart. Jianghu thought that the heart of the ancestral dragon was summoned by something indeed. It made sense if it happened to be the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. From the looks of it, the appearance of the heart of the ancestral dragon will mean the appearance of the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. Jianghu was somewhat concerned. But he soon stopped thinking about it. There were countless powerful people here. There was no need for him to act. Senior, what do you think will happen if the heart of the ancestral dragon appears right now? Asked Jianghu. It's impossible. The old man shook his head. If such a situation really arises, the powerful individuals in the vicinity will rush over immediately. Actually, small fries like us might have a chance of obtaining it. There is rarely such an opportunity. Jianghu wanted to agree, but he saw Hong Yuye turn back to look at the old man. He followed her gaze. What if the opportunity arises? Will you take action, senior? Of course. But what are you looking at, junior? The old man was puzzled. He saw that Jianghu's cultivation realm wasn't very high. He even flew over a little to see if Jianghu was any threat. If he had a formidable background, he would naturally make an acquaintance with him. If not, there was no need to be concerned about him. However, right at that moment they sensed a vast aura. Shortly after, a radiance appeared in the distance, and a deafening dragon's roar resounded in the sky. It's here, Jianghu said slowly. Roar. The dragon's roar shook the heavens and shocked the old man. He regretted rushing forward. The dragon's roar was deafening. 18 rays of light rose into the sky. It was the shadow of a true dragon appearing in the sky. In the middle was a golden, beating heart. 18 true dragons surrounded and protected it. The heart of the ancestral dragon? Jianghu was astonished by its grandeur. He turned to the old man. Senior, the opportunity has come. The old man returned to his senses. He looked embarrassed. He forced out a smile. How can I have such fortune? This must belong to some other senior. Jianghu shook his head. He also didn't have such good fortune either. He looked at Hong Yuye. She didn't seem that interested in it either. The heart of the ancestral dragon was really just a golden heart. When it appeared, Jianghu felt that many forces were coming in their direction. They were all after this treasure. On the island Mr. Tao sat by the shore. He suddenly turned to look in the direction of the abyssal sea. What's going on? What happened? Tanya asked curiously. But soon she also noticed it. 18 beams of light rose into the sky, and 18 true dragons revealed their forms. She was shocked. What's going on? The heart of the ancestral dragon has appeared, Tanya. Are you sure that no one has done anything today? Mr. Tao stood up. No. Absolutely not, Tanya said firmly. Let's go and see. Mr. Tao took a step forward. Tanya followed closely behind, and they soon left the island behind them. On the way Tanya was quite excited. Mr. Tao, the other forces haven't arrived yet, and the heavenly kings are very far away from here. If we make a move, can we seize the heart of the ancestral dragon? Chapter 652. Something Emerging from the Abyss. Translator. Fndl, Fantak Tranquil Atin Ftator. FNDLPQQ Fantak Tranquil Atin. On the way Mr. Tao shook his head. Our purpose for this journey remains unchanged. Don't let the benefits blind your eyes. This is a great opportunity. One that we might never encounter again, Tanya said. For us, the ancestral dragon's heart may not necessarily bring benefits. Mr. Tao's pace was slow, but each step covered a great distance. The current troubles are nothing compared to what might come later. We don't need to invite more trouble. Besides, do you really think we are the only ones who have come here? Some people hide in plain sight. They are far beyond your imagination. Who are they? Tanya asked in surprise. Mr. Tao smiled but didn't answer. Tanya rolled her eyes and continued on. After some time they saw 18 true dragons spiraling in the sky. Among them there was a golden heart still beating. Is the ancestral dragon still alive? Tanya asked in confusion. There's not much information about the true dragon clan. It's hard to guess. Mr. Tao shook his head. When they arrived, many others had already reached. They were just a bit slower. The aura of the true dragons descended from the sky and Mr. Tao looked up. He frowned slightly. It seems like they're heading for the abyssal sea. They were summoned by something. If we don't intercept them, they'll enter and we'll have nothing left, Tanya said. They will take action. Mr. Tao pointed to dozens of cultivators in midair. Can they stop them? Tanya felt a bit anxious. Although the 18 true dragons hadn't done anything, trying to stop them seemed insane. They're just phantoms and not as terrifying as you might think. Mr. Tao thought for a moment. But stopping them is indeed difficult. Some people have already tried, Tanya immediately said. At that moment, an elderly cultivator soared into the sky and began using his techniques to create a barrier of spiritual energy to block the true dragons. Everyone below watched closely. The 18 true dragons continued forward and ignored the barrier. Then, with a resounding crash, the true dragons collided with the barrier. Crack! The barrier of spiritual energy collapsed. Seeing this, the elderly cultivator was rather delighted. The true dragons didn't retaliate. They simply continued forward. Below, many people were delighted as well. They thought maybe they could trap the true dragons. It looks like we can wait for more powerful individuals to arrive, Mr. Tao said. If we can stop them, why not just go and seize the ancestral dragon's heart? Tanya asked. Mr. Tao was taken aback for a moment and then smiled. Well, I suppose someone will do just that. Indeed, a person went straight for the ancestral dragon's heart. By the abyssal sea, Jianghu watched that person, who seemed joyous, as if he believed the ancestral dragon's heart would soon be his. Others were shocked and tried to stop him, but it was too late. Can he succeed? The elderly man asked Jianghu. There was no reason. He only said it because Hong Yuya looked disdainful. Roar. A dragon's roar sounded. One of the 18 true dragons moved and swallowed the person who had approached. This both surprised and delighted the onlookers. They were surprised at the formidable power of the true dragon's phantom but delighted that no one had managed to take the ancestral dragon's heart. With the previous example, no one dared to approach recklessly and could only try to prevent others from advancing. Why don't you give it a try? The elderly man asked Jianghu curiously. He realized that even in the absence of stronger individuals, he had no chance. Jianghu shook his head. He didn't want to throw his life away. As for Hong Yuya, she had no intention of getting involved. Boom. The 18 true dragons moved in the sky. Ahead of them, dozens of powerful figures were laying down formations to block their progress and secure the ancestral dragon's heart. Notify the heavenly kings, someone said in a low voice. The others also informed powerful individuals to come and fight. The 18 true dragons gently collided with the barrier, and the massive formation began to tremble, but it didn't shatter. The true dragons didn't launch an attack. They were just testing the strength of the formation. Once they weathered the first wave, it became much easier. After several attempts, the formation finally stabilized. It seems they're trapped now, said Jianghu. He could tell that the ancestral dragon's heart was drawn by the aura from the abyssal sea. It was an elusive presence that was hard to grasp. But it definitely existed. Who do you think will obtain the ancestral dragon's heart? The elderly man asked. Jianghu didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned to look at the abyssal. The abyssal sea was still a vast pool of nothingness, but there seemed to be something trying to emerge from within. He sensed it from the auras in it. The elderly man turned to look as well. He was quite puzzled. Senior, what's happening with the abyssal sea? Jianghu shook his head. He couldn't answer, nor did he need to. As for this elderly man, he didn't even know him. He had just called him Senior, and now the man insisted on addressing him as Senior too. It was somewhat uncomfortable. However, there was one thing he didn't understand. Senior Dan Yuan paid a lot of attention to the ancestral dragon's heart, so why hadn't his people come here? They might have a chance to obtain it. It wasn't just Senior Dan Yuan. Lu should have been here by now. Why weren't they taking action? Were they all like Hong Yuya? Maybe they weren't interested in the ancestral dragon's heart but something else. Jianghu glanced at the woman beside him and didn't say much. On the other hand, Tanya was confused. Mr. Tao, are we just going to watch? Tanya asked. Why not? Haven't you noticed that these 18 true dragons are no ordinary beings? It's not easy to avoid them and get the ancestral dragon's heart, Mr. Tao said. It feels like we're handing over the treasure to others. Tanya sighed. No need to worry. They're here. Mr. Tao turned to look into the distance. At that moment, a teleportation formation activated underwater, and a dozen beams of light shot into the sky. Within a breath's time, figures emerged from the light, and each of them made the entire sea area resonate with power. They could communicate with the sea. Heavenly King Budong is here, Tanya exclaimed. Did he already absorb the benefits he got from the south? He's the first one to arrive. His aura has become stronger. Mr. Tao was also somewhat surprised. Soon Tanya spotted more figures. Heavenly King Taomu is here too. Heavenly Kings Kuer and Mu Longyu are here too. So many Heavenly Kings have already arrived. If they make a move, won't this sea area suffer? These Heavenly Kings are interested in the ancestral dragon's heart. If not now, then when would they come here? Mr. Tao asked. Tanya nodded. Indeed, the ancestral dragon's heart was quite extraordinary. Soon, she noticed that these people were standing in the skies and showed no signs of making a move. Why aren't they fighting each other? Because they're not like you. Chapter 653, Something Seeks My Help. At the edge of the abyssal sea, Jianghu also noticed the presence of the heavenly kings, and their auras were powerful. However, he had never sensed such a presence in King Hai Luo. Even when he first met Mu Longyu, he hadn't felt this way. It seemed that the heavenly king's strength underwent a significant transformation when they were overseas. They're probably discussing what to do with the ancestral dragon's heart. It's just difficult to reach an agreement since the sea area is not only inhabited by the heavenly kings. Jianghu wondered if they would come to an agreement. As more teleportation arrays appeared, unidentified, powerful individuals emerged from them. The discussions took time and the whole atmosphere seemed less friendly. Before long they ceased their conversations. As time passed, two more figures appeared in the sky, but they also remained silent, which only increased the sense of unease. A storm is approaching, Jianghu said to the elderly man beside him. Stay further away from here. It won't do you any good to linger here. The elderly man expressed his gratitude and quickly moved away. Senior, what should we do? Jianghu asked. She looked at the abyssal sea. We wait. Jianghu nodded. He could sense that something was struggling to emerge from within. But they didn't have to wait long before a sudden roar echoed through the sky. Boom. A tremendous force swept in all directions and caused the seawater to rush toward the SKV like a reverse waterfall. Blinding lights flashed and something rumbled. The overwhelming force instantly engulfed Jianghu. Without Hong Yuye's presence, he wouldn't have had time to escape even with the golden ring. He had to use the 1,000 miles teleportation talisman. Otherwise he wouldn't make it out in time. In the aftermath of such a force, Jianghu was unable to see the figures of the people at all. He couldn't even see the battle properly. So, he could only patiently wait for the force to weaken. However, after a short while, he frowned and turned toward the abyssal sea. The aura had become stronger as if something was struggling to break free. Amidst the eruption of boundless power, Mr. Tao retreated to a more distant location and finally saw the person he had been looking for at the edge of the abyssal sea. It was a figure of a scholar. He gazed at the abyssal sea with surging power behind him, yet it couldn't touch him at all. Smiling Sansheng? Is he watching the abyssal sea? But wasn't he supposed to be in the return to Void Realm? How is he blocking those forces? Tanya exclaimed. Mr. Tao didn't bother with all the questions. He seemed puzzled. What's in the abyssal sea that had captured his attention? He is not even looking at the ancestral dragon's heart? The enigma of the abyssal sea left not only Mr. Tao perplexed but also Jianghu, who could only sense a presence struggling to emerge. Now that struggle was becoming evident. After observing for a moment, he suddenly frowned. It seemed that the other party was about to struggle fiercely. It's coming? Hong Yuye, who had been watching Jianghu all along, turned toward the abyssal sea. In the next moment, a blue beam of light shot out of it. Boom. The speed was unimaginable and the strength was astonishing. In an instant, the blue light shot into the sky and illuminated the surroundings. The 18 true dragons came to a halt. They didn't dare move recklessly. Both Mr. Tao and Tanya were astonished. The moment the blue light appeared, Jianghu instinctively raised his foot to enter the abyssal sea. But he immediately snapped back to his senses. This beam of light seemed to be seeking his help. It hoped he would enter the abyssal sea to rescue it. Is it seeking only my help or calling out to everyone here? Jianghu looked at the person beside him. Hong Yuye just stared at him in indifference. Do you want to go in? Hong Yuye suddenly asked. Senior, you must be joking. Jianghu lowered his head respectfully. The Abyssal Sea is not a place someone like me can enter. Actually, you can. Hong Yuye raised her hand and gently pulled up her sleeve. The golden ring was visible on her wrist. Now you can go in. Senior, you're joking, right? What if? Jianghu noticed her sharp gaze. I'll go in. He was indeed helpless in front of a powerful individual. He did want to go down and look, but he wasn't the type to act recklessly when he knew it was dangerous. Regardless of what was down there, he wouldn't risk himself for the sake of curiosity. However, Hong Yuye's words reassured him. He didn't want to be careless though. He had prepared all teleportation methods in case something went wrong. After that, he took a step forward and leaped to make contact with the blue beam of light. Then he began to fall into the abyssal sea. Mr. Tao, he jumped in. Tanya exclaimed. She saw clearly that smiling Sansheng had jumped in. The abyssal sea was an endpoint. It was hard to turn back from there. Even someone as great as Mr. Tao dared not enter it. But smiling Sansheng had jumped in willingly. Mr. Tao just looked in the direction of the abyssal sea. The blue beam of light was now disappearing. This sudden change didn't stop the powerful individuals, as if such disturbances weren't that unusual here. People would jump in from time to time, and no one paid much attention because nobody ever came out. Hong Yuye, on the other hand, kept her eyes fixed on the abyssal sea and didn't look away. Jianghu, who had leaped into the abyssal sea, plummeted. He couldn't use any techniques or spells at all. His strength was compressed within him. It was difficult to move. It would take a long time before he could use anything to save himself. Moreover, his descent was much faster than expected. During the descent, Jianghu saw stars. At first, they appeared as faint points of light, then they multiplied into a multitude of stars. Soon, it was as if a galaxy was surging, but the further he descended, the more unsettling it felt. It was as though the galaxy was converging downward. The stars gathered like a vast river flowing downward. He too seemed to be in that state and unable to escape the abyssal sea. His powers were suppressed and his body was under immense pressure. He looked up at the sky and could see the stars winding down and eventually converging below. This won't work. If I keep falling like this, I won't be able to get out of here at all. By now, the blue light was nowhere to be seen. The distress he had sensed from this place had disappeared. It might as well have been an illusion. After waiting for a while, he suddenly saw several floating rocks. Bam! Jianghu fell heavily onto one of the rocks. His legs were a bit sore. Looking around, he noticed several people sitting cross-legged. Most of them had weak auras, as if they were resisting the pressure from the abyssal sea. Another corpse has fallen, said a middle-aged man. A corpse? Is he referring to me? Jianghu wondered. He didn't pay it much mind and instead approached the edge of the rock to look down. At that moment, he felt something coming up from below as if it had locked onto him. Is this the abyssal sea? Jianghu asked the middle-aged man sitting on the rock beside him. The abyssal sea? This is just the edge of the abyssal sea. If you want to see what the abyssal sea truly looks like, you'll have to go further down, the middle-aged man said. Do you know what the abyssal sea is, sir? Jianghu asked curiously. The man didn't respond. Jianghu turned to look at his side and noticed that the seawater was still rushing downward without an end. Some say there are true dragons down there, while others say it holds the secret to becoming a heavenly king. Do any of you have any clue as to what might actually be there? Jianghu asked. As soon as he entered, he had communicated with the golden ring to see if it was still connected to the outside. It set his mind at ease. After he finished speaking, two more elderly men suddenly appeared behind him. Each wielded a weapon. Jianghu was puzzled. Hand over the storage treasure, one of the men said. Jianghu was astonished. These people, who appeared so feeble, wanted to rob him of his spirit stones. I advise you not to struggle. It takes a long time to adapt here, and you're not a body cultivator, so you're no match for us, said the middle-aged man beside him. Of course we won't be brutal. We'll leave you with something at least. Jianghu was speechless. Chapter 654, The Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. Jianghu looked at the two men. This was the first time someone had blatantly demanded for his storage treasure. There were many things inside. 110,000 spirit stones were not a small amount. Jianghu had never seen anyone below the Return to Void realm as rich as him. However, he had 2 storage treasures and they weren't noticeable. They were just normal items he had obtained within the sect. As for the items that couldn't see the light of day, they were stored in his primordial spirit storage treasure. One of them had the golden rings. Jianghu watched the two men and noticed that they had almost no cultivation left. They relied on their physical strength. After that, he observed everyone around him and did not see anyone special among them. "Do you all see the people falling from above when you're here?" asked Jiang. "Oh. Cut the crap. Hand over the storage treasure, and don't even think about stalling for time," the elderly man in the gray robe said coldly. "Are you referring to this?" Jianghu took out his storage treasure and then hovered near the edge of the cliff. "Can we talk first?" The crowd was speechless. "Why bother, fellow disciple? You won't survive anyway," said the middle-aged man sitting on the rock beside him. "Answer a few questions for me first," Jianghu said. "You can ask," the middle-aged man said. "It seems they listen to you," Jianghu said with a smile. "Has a young and beautiful woman jumped down from here recently?" "Many young women have jumped down. Who are you referring to?" Jianghu wasn't sure. King Hai Luo's lover had jumped down from here. That was all he knew. "I think I remember. Her cultivation realm was quite formidable." "Where is she?" Jianghu asked. "She jumped down." The middle-aged man sighed. "She was too impulsive. We didn't have any intention of taking all her spirit stones, but she didn't trust us." Jianghu nodded. However, when he asked what was down there, no one could provide an answer. "Can you hand over the storage treasure now?" the middle-aged man asked. Jianghu put it away and showed no sign of handing it over. "What do you mean by this?" the elderly man asked coldly. Jianghu shook his head. "I'm not used to giving up my things easily." "You're asking for death," the elderly man said angrily. This young man was mocking him. They attacked. Jianghu's eyes flickered as he watched their movements. When they approached, he used his fan as a weapon. After dodging a sword strike with a sidestep, he raised his fan and struck at the sword. Clang. The tremendous impact startled the elderly man, and the sword in his hand fell to the ground. Clang. While the elderly man was still in shock, Jianghu approached him. "Senior, you've grown old." He then threw a punch. Boom. The elderly man was sent flying beyond the rock. Below was the boundless abyssal sea. Jianghu did not pay any attention to him and moved to the second man. With just a few moves, he tossed the second person out of the rock. He had already planned for the situation where he might not be able to use his spiritual energy. He had never learned any martial arts, but he had some skill in hand-to-hand combat. Moreover, he had also learned heavenly blade techniques, so using a fan as a substitute for a blade was not a problem. Most importantly, how could a group of old and weak people be a match for him? Jianghu felt nothing when he saw the old man fall. He didn't believe that they would leave him with something. "How are you so nimble?" asked the middle-aged man sitting on the rock next to him. He didn't seem worried about people falling off the rock. Perhaps it was better with fewer people around. Who knows? Jianghu didn't want to answer him. With various divine treasures on his body, he naturally had an advantage here. At that moment, 3 young men stood up. One of them said, "He has a secret treasure on him. Perhaps it can help us get out." He wasn't the only one. Everyone was thinking the same. It was the first time they had seen someone so extraordinary here. Many people who fell down here were unable to move freely, but this person had no such constraints. "Why are you staring at me?" Jianghu looked at the cliff and smiled. "There are other things more worthy of your attention." "What things?" Everyone was a bit puzzled. After a moment of silence, Jianghu said, "It's here." His strange words aroused curiosity in some people, while others became cautious. Before they could question it, a blue light appeared from below. This sudden change shocked everyone. Even the middle-aged man who had been there from the beginning stood up. Their reaction made Jianghu puzzled. Hadn't they seen the blue light just now? But now wasn't the time to think about that. He stared at the ground and saw a streak of azure light moving rapidly within the blue light. In just a few blinks, it appeared above the group of rocks. The light gradually dissipated and revealed an azure blue pearl hovering in the air. It was about the size of 2 or 3 fists. Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl? Jianghu guessed. The aura emitted by the pearl was the same as the one he had sensed before. Moreover, this pearl gave him a strange feeling as if there was some inexplicable connection between him and it. As soon as the pearl appeared, everyone was stunned. They had never seen something like this before. In the span of a breath, those who were planning to attack Jianghu all rushed toward the blue pearl. This was a rare treasure. At the same time, they felt that this was their hope for an escape. A pearl that could float up from below could easily lead them out of this place. Step back. The middle-aged man shouted. However, no one paid any attention to him. Senior He, don't think too highly of yourself at such a time, said someone. Senior He glanced at the person coldly, and a small knife appeared in his hand. It shot out and caught the person off guard. The young man couldn't even react. He fell to the ground. He clutched his neck and struggled, and blood kept pouring out. The stones were stained red, and the abyssal sea absorbed the blood. Jianghu was surprised. He didn't expect injuries to be this severe here. Senior He did not stop and continued to throw knives one after another. One of them was even aimed at Jianghu. It was aimed directly at his throat. Jianghu avoided the fatal strike with a dodge. Out of curiosity, he reached out and caught the handle of the small knife at the moment it grazed his neck. It was a blade of good quality. It was no wonder it could kill so easily. However, by that time, Senior He had already killed all the people around him. Seeing Jianghu catch the flying knife, he narrowed his eyes. He didn't pay Jianghu any attention and headed straight for the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. This was their hope for escape. He used all the spiritual energy he could muster and leaped forward. In the blink of an eye, he reached the pearl. However, the moment he touched it, a blue light flashed. Splat. Senior He's entire arm turned into nothingness, and he was sent flying backward. He fell onto a rock and writhed in agony. Chapter 655. Emerging from the abyssal sea and shocking everyone. Jianghu felt anxious as he watched the man struggle. The Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl seemed to be even more dangerous than he had anticipated. However, what puzzled him was that since it had already reached this point, why didn't the pearl continue upward? Floating further up would lead it out of the abyssal sea. Why would such a pearl be here? Jianghu wondered. He wanted to try appraising it but found that it took a lot of time for his divine abilities to take effect in the abyssal sea. He didn't have much time. The Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl moved. The floating pearl suddenly swayed twice and then started moving toward Jianghu. Senior He watched the pearl in terror. He knew that this young man was doomed. However, what he feared didn't happen. The pearl did not touch Jianghu but stopped in front of him. Senior He was baffled. Jianghu was also shocked. He had just witnessed the horror of touching the pearl. If it had touched him, it would have been disastrous. But as he gazed at the dragon pearl before him, he had a strange feeling that it was inviting him to touch it. Jianghu hesitated and extended his hand toward it. Senior He was astonished. Many things flashed through his mind. This young man had just arrived and right after, the pearl had also appeared. There must be a connection between the two. He knew that his opportunity to leave this place had come. Without hesitation he got up and knelt in front of Jianghu. I am He Yuran and I apologize for my earlier behavior, Senior. Please forgive me. I promise to serve you from here on out even at the expense of my life. Jianghu glanced at Senior He but did not respond. Instead he focused his attention on the pearl. As he reached out to touch it, the pearl moved. It allowed Jianghu to touch it. In an instant, the sound of a dragon's roar emerged from the Archean Abyss Dragon Pearl. The voice was faint yet clear. A blue light radiated from the pearl, and a phantom of a true dragon appeared. It was a small blue dragon that opened its azure eyes and gazed at Jianghu. Then it transformed into a vast dragon and circled around the man before swimming away. Its power resonated with him. In an instant, Jianghu felt his strength returning, and he even gained control over the pearl's power. It was an unimaginable force. He looked up. He knew that he could escape this place anytime he wished. Senior, please take me with you. I'm willing to do everything. I'll remain loyal to you for the rest of my life, said Senior He pleadingly. Jianghu looked at him in doubt but remained silent. Instead he leaped up. Boom. The rocks shattered as he shot into the sky. A magnificent dragon's roar echoed in all directions. For a moment, Jianghu felt like he was invincible. He was willing to be a champion for the world and even dared to contend with the heavens and the earth. This was the intensity of power granted by the pearl. He quickly restrained his thoughts and focused on getting out of this place. At that moment, he felt like a sharp blade forcibly cleaving open the sky of the abyssal sea. The powerful impact made the surrounding seawater halt, and the starry river began to flow backward. Outside, Hong Yuya had been watching the abyssal sea attentively while keeping the golden ring activated. She looked calm and indifferent, but her gaze never left the abyssal sea. It wasn't clear what she was thinking about. She was not known for expressing her emotions. The battle of the heavenly kings did not affect her in the least. Mr. Tao also did not pay attention to the heavenly kings. Instead, he watched the abyssal sea and the heart of the ancestral dragon. Since the earlier outburst of light, the heart of the ancestral dragon had quietened down. However, he sensed a change as if it was preparing for a confrontation with something. The abyssal sea, on the other hand, remained motionless. Mr. Tao, is Smiling Sanxing dead? Tanya suddenly asked. Mr. Tao shook his head. That's unlikely. I know a bit about the origin of Smiling Sanxing. If he were that easy to kill, he wouldn't be the person he is today. Why? Tanya was puzzled. It's hard to explain, Mr. Tao said. They could only wait quietly for further developments. Suddenly Mr. Tao lowered his head to look at the sea beneath them. This is not right. What's wrong? Tanya asked. Retreat. Something is about to happen in the abyssal sea. What? Tanya was puzzled but followed him as they moved backward. Look at the seawater, Mr. Tao said as they retreated. What's wrong with the seawater? Can you please explain properly, Mr. Tao? Tanya asked. It has stopped flowing, Mr. Tao said. Tanya finally noticed it. The waves had disappeared. Then she looked toward the sea farther from the abyssal sea. That area appeared normal. Even the true dragons are getting agitated, Mr. Tao said. Tanya felt uneasy. Fortunately, they were retreating quickly. But while Tanya was feeling relieved, a beam of light suddenly shone from behind her. A blue light beam extended in all directions and shot into the sky. Immediately afterward, the sound of a dragon's roar pierced the heavens. Roar. The dragon's roar echoed in all directions and caused the seawater to flow backward and shatter the starry sky. Boom. Mr. Tao and Tanya quickly retreated while defending themselves. The formidable force affected everyone. The 18 true dragons began to roar as well as if they were confronting something that had caused such a disturbance. However, the roars from the 18 true dragons were nothing compared to the reverberating roar from the abyssal sea. The changes compelled the heavenly kings to stop their battle. They all looked at the source of the blue light and knew that something related to the dragon clan had appeared. Once it came out, the ancestral dragon's heart might change hands. They exchanged worried glances and joined forces to suppress whatever force it was. If the abyssal sea could weaken the force, it would weaken whatever creature was coming out. There was still a chance. In an instant, several powers descended from the sky. They were intent on suppressing the entity within the abyssal sea. Hong Yuye glanced upward. She seemed as though she was about to raise her hand. At the last moment, she sensed something and withdrew her hand. A massive dragon head emerged from the abyssal sea and roared in fury. Its roar reverberated through the heavens. Boom. Terrifying power swept across the world and shattered all layers of suppression. The heavenly kings were all shaken. Suddenly there were footsteps. A figure slowly materialized within the power storm. He emerged from the abyssal sea and was stepping on the dragon's scales. He stood in midair above the abyssal sea and looked ahead. Mr. Tao looked at the abyssal sea in disbelief. At that moment, a scholarly-looking man stood with his hands behind his back. He was unaffected by the abyssal sea, and the powerful storms couldn't approach him because a true dragon surrounded him. A true dragon protected him. Roar. The dragon roared. It was provoked by the 18 true dragons. Jianghu raised his eyebrows and glanced at them. The 18 true dragons all bowed their heads in submission. The ancestral dragon's heart was still struggling and unwilling to submit. Jianghu didn't care. He hadn't paid any attention to it or those fighting for it. Instead he looked at Hong Yuya. He approached her. When he moved, everyone became vigilant and stood ready to attack. However, Jianghu had no intention to do anything. He just wanted to reach out to Hong Yuya. At the same time, Yuya walked step by step toward Jianghu. As they drew near to each other, Jianghu extended his hand. Yuya also reached out and took his hand. Jianghu turned around and walked alongside her. Then they both disappeared from their spot. As they vanished, the phantom of the true dragon disappeared, and the blue light dispersed. The sea returned to its normal state, and the starry sky reappeared. The abyssal sea returned to its dim and void state. Everyone looked at this transformation as if it were a dream. "Mr. Tao, am I dreaming?" Tanya asked. Was this his goal? Mr. Tao muttered. Even now, he couldn't guess what the person had been up to. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.